Okay, I want to tell y'all a story about my Granddaddy Burkett. It's my daddy's daddy. So, I just remember a few things about him because I was only 7 or 8 when he died. But here it goes. He had a bushy white beard, and he had really, really bushy eyebrows. He smoked a pipe. He wore a hat most of the time. He had a dog named Rock, and he was always laughing, and he was always happy. He was kind of jolly like. He had a loud, booming voice. Like when he said something, it was pretty loud. He sat on the front porch a lot, and every time one of us kids would walk by, he'd reach out and grab us and tickle us or something like that. He loved to sing us the Banana Fofana song. And he would use our names, and it goes like Brenda, Brenda, Bobinda, Banana Fana, Fofinda, Fee, Fi, Mominda, Brenda. And then we'd all giggle and laugh and beg him to do it again. And he would do it again, and he would do it for every one of us. He had a bunch of grand youngins, and he would do all of ours. But I think he liked my sister Sheila the best. She was his favorite. I don't really know why, because she didn't seem to be so special to me, but I guess it's because she was so little and cute. But one time, I remember this little story here about my brother and my cousin Craig. They got into his gourds. And they were shooting rocks with their slingshots, and they broke one of them. And he had grown those gourds himself, and he cured them to use as birdhouses, and that took a long time. And they thought he wouldn't figure out what they had done, so they ran off to play someplace else. But they didn't have such good luck, because he did figure it out, and he was mad, and we knew it. And so they enlisted our help, us girls. They wanted us to help them try to fool him and not let him catch them and stuff. So we was kind of in on it together after that. I don't know why we decided to help them boys. I really don't, but we decided we would. So as soon as he seen us, every time we would try to stay out of his sight, but we'd try to walk around the porch. He'd be sitting on the porch. We'd be trying to walk by. And he'd see us sometimes, and sometimes he wouldn't, but every time he'd see us, he'd holler, "I'm gonna skin you kids alive!" And man, we'd just take off running, and we'd laugh and giggle, and we'd try to hide, and then after a while, we'd try to sneak back by him, and sometimes we'd get by him, and he wouldn't see us, but then most of the time he did, and he'd scream out, "I'm gonna skin you kids alive. I'm gonna skin y'all alive. I done told y'all." And so, we just kept doing that for a while. We thought it was the funniest thing ever. And I don't know, maybe he was playing with us and thought it was funny too, because he never did really skin us alive or anything like that. I remember he had an old black car, big old, one of those big old black Ford Model T type cars. I don't know. They were really old cars in the 40s, like 30s and 40s cars, maybe 50s, I don't know. But, and I know everybody said he just drove that car to church, because most of the time it just stayed parked in the little carport that he had built. And I remember my Uncle JV had a bunch of tags on that carport. Every time he'd get a new car, or anybody in the family would get a new car, they'd take the old tag off or get a new tag. He'd hang it up on the wall of the old carport. But anyway, I remember Granddaddy Burkett liked cane syrup. That was his favorite thing. But he loved homemade biscuits. That was his thing. He loved homemade biscuits. And they had to be on the table every single day. And I think my daddy took after him on that, because it was the same thing for my daddy. All my mama's life, she had to cook biscuits every day. Every single day. They had to be on the table. And Granddaddy Burkett, he was, I don't know, he served in not the Civil War, but he served in World War One. And he used to tell us stories about it sitting around the fireplace at night right before bedtime. And sometimes he'd sing the bugle song to us. He told us it was a song the soldiers used to sing early in the morning because they had to get up real early and march. And he said it went something like this. Someday I'm going to murder the bugler. Nope, that ain't how it went. Hold on. He said it went something like this. Oh, how I hate to get up in the morning. Oh, how I'd love to lay in bed. For the hardest call of all is to hear the bugler call. You've got to get up, you've got to get up, you've got to get up in the morning. Someday I'm gonna murder the bugler. Someday you're gonna find him dead. I'll appetite his reveille and stomp upon it heavily and spend the rest of my days in bed. That's what they used to sing while they were marching. But my favorite war tale he used to told us is the one about the end of the war. He said one night during a heavy battle, he hid with some other men in a foxhole while bullets were flying around everywhere. It was freezing cold and miserable. Then suddenly the fighting stopped, and a man rode up on a horse holding a white flag and shouted, "The war is over, boys. Build a fire." The war was over. What a celebration they had. He said the Germans and the Americans both all stopped shooting at each other and built the biggest bonfire you ever seen. And all of them sat around it talking and laughing and exchanging buttons from their jackets as gifts. I love that story. I remember when Granddaddy Burkett passed away. I was still very young. If my memory serves me correctly, Granddaddy Burkett was laid in state at my Aunt Maylie's house in Starlington, Georgiana, Alabama. He died on St. Valentine's Day. He was 69 years old. I guess I was about 8. I remember his coffin being placed against the wall in the living room. There were lots of people there, and they were coming and going, paying their respects and expressing their condolences and stuff, and they brought food, and it was just like, a lot of people, and I remember walking up to the coffin and peering down at my granddaddy. He was just laying there so still and stiff. I had never seen him look like that before. I was told by the grown-ups that his soul had gone to heaven to be with Jesus, but that his body would be left behind and buried because he wouldn't need it anymore. I heard somebody say, "He looks so natural, like he's sleeping." Well, I didn't think so at all. I'd never been to a funeral before, and nothing about it seemed natural to me. I didn't want them to bury my granddaddy's body in the ground. I remember hearing my aunts crying, my daddy's sisters, Aunt Lorene and Aunt Maylie, I think. I heard somebody say, "Get the doctor." Well, I didn't know what they needed the doctor for, but I was hoping the doctor could make my granddaddy get out of that casket, But then the doctor came, and he come walking up on the porch and knocked on the door, and he had this big black bag, and he was wearing a suit, and he walked in, and he opened his bag up, and he had all kinds of little doctoring stuff in it, and he took out some shot needles, and that didn't look too fun to me, but he gave my aunts shots, and it calmed them down, and they stopped crying, and they went to sleep. They slept a long time, and I thought, well, maybe you're not supposed to cry at funerals because you'll get shots, And really, that's about all I remember about that, because, I don't remember the actual service at the graveside or anything like that, but I was really young, so the part I remember is my granddaddy laying in state in the living room. But all in all, that's my memory of my Granddaddy Burkett, and I hope you enjoyed my little story. The end.